What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 600, oh my god, of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast Hot Tags of the Week. I am your host as always, Tony Mango. Joining me as always is Callum Wiggins.
600 and it's back to the old days.
Yeah, from how many years ago was that? 4 years ago at this point?
Yeah, for a while it was just us two doing stuff for a while.
For like a good year maybe or so.
Yeah.
The good old days.
So the good old days.
Yeah, screw you, Rob. We of course, Rob, we mentioned before, Rob's taking a little vacay, so we're envious. And instead we are taking a vacation from the main event and the pay-per-view point stuff that we've been doing recently and going back to the hot tags. That's about as much of a transition I could go from that sentence. But we are, of course, doing the normal breakdown that we normally do here with the whole rumor mill and the gossip train and the TV recap and all the other things that we normally talk about here. And as per usual, we want to know what you have to say. So drop your thoughts in the comments below or any other means that you have to leave your thoughts, whether you are listening to this on Spotify or something and you go over to the page on smarkoutmoment.com where you tweet at us on our personal accounts or tweet at smarkoutmoment or at a mango tree. I mean, I don't check that one as much, but still I get those notifications. And the Mega Maniacs on Facebook and so many different methods for you to do that. Before we get into some of the topics, let me just quickly toss out those plugs that I normally do. Make sure that if you are on YouTube and you're leaving your comments, that you also hit the like button, because that helps out quite a bit. It only takes a split second to do it, and I don't understand why people don't do that as often. But hey, if you got a reason, I kind of want to know. Also, click on the thanks button if you want to toss a little spare change our way. Make sure that you are subscribed and ring that little notification bell, and click the join button if you want to get access to the same things as the Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, then you can check out the same things like the Darkcast and the Pick Your Poison tier and all. Most recent Darkcast is up on there. I think that I have scheduled that in the morning or something. I don't remember exactly when I posted it, but it was like about 3:30 in the morning by the time I got done doing that. And it is the Ultimate King of the Ring tournament that I have, which I don't know if I've got the right thing on here. That's the Darkcast thing. And then there you go. Ultimate King of the Ring tournament fantasy booking that you can find with this particular, where is it on here? This particular graphic for the thumbnail. So keep that in mind. If you are interested in seeing what I do, if I have the 128 people and do a massive, massive tournament, if you want to know how that goes down, you got to be on the Darkcast tier. Thank you to everybody who is on that Darkcast tier. And yeah, if you want to pick up merchandise, Redbubble and TeePublic. So let's start talking about the 600th word episode of the Hot Tags and the things we got to talk about here, which let's start off with a positive thing. Bliss is pregnant. I would say the first name, but I don't want my Echo Dot to go off.
It's all right, I can say it. I don't have one nearby me, so
Lexi.
Yeah, Alexa. Yeah, Alexa Bliss is pregnant. Her and Ryan Cabrera announced the news, and I guess that's as good an explanation as any as why she hasn't been back on TV for a while. So, but congratulations to the couple. It's always great news to hear that.
Yeah, we've not seen her in a while, and that was a really confusing thing for the longest time, because it was like, okay, well, is she injured? Okay, well, is it creative direction? Is it something about Bray Wyatt? Because they had teased her and him kind of doing something together. Then he's been missing for so long. Eventually, it became that there was this, this health situation. And then it became that there was also this thing about not Dancing with the Stars, The Masked Singer. And then now, on top of that, there's this. So I don't know how long this has been in the works, but this is, of course, one of the few life update type hot tags that we normally do that ends up being one of the major positives. And we talked about Ty over in AEW. We talked recently about Carmella. So this is like baby fever going on or whatever, but that's great. And, congrats to the happy couple.
Yeah. It's quite interesting that all these things are happening like several months after Valentine's Day. It's weird that.
I mean, sometimes people, they take a minute.
I think based by the post that she put out announcing pregnancy, I don't think it was planned.
Yeah, I think she had said something like it's the best oops or something.
Yeah.
Which that's a good way to refer to it. It's like mommy's little oops.
So it does mean that we're unlikely to see her back anytime. Well, obviously not back anytime super soon, because she'll go obviously be off for the time of her pregnancy and then through maternity leave. So I guess 2024 is the earliest we'll see her, and even then it'll probably be in the back end of 2024.
Yeah, you got to figure tack 9 months onto this immediately, because that's just how it works.
Then we don't know how far pregnant she is.
Yeah, but then you got to figure it hasn't been 7 months, so you got to assume it's probably going to be a little bit of time after that, and then time to get back into the ring shape and time to work on the ring rust, and for a creative situation to come up as well too, because they might just be like, look, we've been completely ignoring any creative that could come to you because you've been, out on maternity leave and stuff. Let's figure out exactly when we want you to come around. So she might be ready by 10 months from now, but that might be like, hey, we're right around Mania season and let's wait until after that. So I'm assuming a year, maybe even a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I if I was to put a date on it, and obviously it'll just random because it's up to her when she wants to come back, but I would put a pin in SummerSlam 2024.
That's kind of what I'm approaching. Yeah.
So
for anybody who's like, man, that's a shame that, I won't be seeing Bliss in her, performing capacities and stuff. At least it's for a good reason, not an injury. So same can't be applicable to Braun Strowman, unfortunately. He's been gone for a little bit, and now we know why. He just underwent neck fusion surgery. And that's a huge thing. Many people, that's the end of their career, but plenty other people have actually had that happen, and then they've wrestled quite a bit longer. Sheamus had neck fusion surgery, and he's doing some of his best work right now. So it's not like an end thing necessarily. Of course, it's not good. You would, of course, hope that you wouldn't need to have any kind of surgery, even, especially not a neck-related thing, but I haven't found, I should say, any kind of pure timetable of when he's expected to return. But you got to assume it's many months down the road.
Yeah, so when Edge had this, Edge is the one that I always go to for this kind of surgery, even though I know that multiple other people have had it, but Edge is the one that immediately comes to mind back in 2002, 2003, around about that time. So from my recollection, he suffered the neck injury in the build up to around about February 2023, and then he was out of action until April 2023, 2003. Sorry, February 2003, and then he wasn't back until about April or May 2004. So obviously that's a year-long thing. We don't know how significant the neck fusion surgery is in comparison. So I don't know if it means that it could be slightly shorter or even longer. But yeah, we can safely say that we won't see him back for several months at the very least. Again, I'm thinking this is probably an early 2024 one.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if we're lucky, I guess, maybe he's around for Royal Rumble or so. But they're not in a position.
Not one to rush it back. You don't want to rush this type of injury back in particular.
Especially when it comes to, realistically, Braun Strowman hasn't been doing the biggest and most important things on the roster right now. So it's not like this is Roman Reigns where they would be like, look, we need you. Roman's been, he's got his time off. And then when he comes back, it's as big of a deal because he's the top guy. Braun, since he's returned, he's just been another guy on the roster for the most part. So they can withstand not having him around for a little bit. And then when he comes back, maybe there's even a little bit more of like that, we missed him and now we can give him a little bit more of a resurged push in some fashion. Might end up being the best thing for him. Or at the very least, if he's been feeling some kind of pain, then, you got to deal with that more than anything else. Health is a bigger deal than creative. But two people that are out like that, and hopefully we don't have any more stories about anything like another injury or anything coming up. Let's move on to, this is completely random, but let's talk about it real fast. You brought this to my attention when we were trying to figure out just like some extra hot tags. There's going to be a biopic about Kavita Devi.
Yeah. So I doubt it's just for that one battle royal that she was in at WrestleMania. But I think it's built around the fact that she was a like champion bodybuilder and weightlifter, or weightlifter in particular in India. So I imagine that's also what she went back to after life in WWE. But yeah, I imagine that it will do well with the Indian audience, because just based on the fact that every clip that she ever posted on the WWE YouTube about Kavita Devi got like hundreds of millions of views.
Yeah, and it's a shame that somebody in her position with that kind of popularity didn't have the tools and didn't have the setup and all to be an actual success in WWE, because what's the downside to having somebody who can tap into that kind of market,
Hey, they pushed Jinder Mahal. Why not her?
Right, yeah, I mean, they gave her, a match here and there, but she really didn't have more than a few. I mean, I honestly can't think of a single one. Let me see if Kavita Devi, what her full breakdown of televised matches were in WWE. She mostly, of course, NXT live events. That doesn't really count in the grand scheme of things. TV shows and pay-per-views. I'm all in good old cage match. She had 4 televised matches. That's it.
Yep.
She had the Mae Young Classic in 2017. The Women's Battle Royal WrestleMania 34 kickoff, the Mae Young Classic in 2018, and the Brands Collide Battle Royal from Worlds Collide 2019. So 2 Battle Royals and 2 Mae Young Classic matches, and that's it.
In terms of single action, her TV time amounts to less than 10 minutes.
Wow.
Less than 9 minutes even.
So maybe they touch upon that. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
I imagine not. No.
The fact that they would need to get some sort of like permission to show the WWE logo and do all that kind of stuff, they probably won't bother with it. It'll probably just be about her life outside of that, which I am completely unaware of, because I not only don't live in India, but I don't pay attention to any of that stuff anyway. I don't pay attention to any sports, period. So even if it would have been the biggest story in American football, I'd be like, yeah, I probably don't know that person. But maybe since it is wrestling adjacent, maybe it's something that we watch down the line, and maybe you see it popping up on fanboysanonymous.com, which is the website for all the movie related stuff. So if I would have gotten into Fast and the Furious, we would have been talking about that with The Rock and John Cena and such. I haven't. So that's I haven't seen that. But coming up soon, more movies are out there. I just saw Into the Spider-Verse. Thought it was not Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse. Thought it was fantastic. Didn't write anything up about it. Didn't do a review point. But I just don't know exactly what to say other than, that's really, really good. So
I want to bring up something that we haven't actually discussed, but I was thinking about mentioning it last week, but I never got around to it. But I think it might be worth discussing now that we brought up The Rock in particular. So you're not a sports guy,
right?
Like a proper sports guy. So are you somewhat aware of Wrexham FC and Ryan Reynolds running that club?
Rob McElhenney?
Yeah, Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds are the chairman of Wrexham.
Yeah, I know a little bit about it here and there, that they had bought that team and that they are somehow like making it like a really successful business or something, I think.
Yeah, they've now they've been promoted to like they were in what's referred to as like National League in the UK, which is like really kind of pretty far down. It's not like super low down the tiers, but it's below the quote unquote football league, which is where the 92 biggest teams in the country play. And so they've now been promoted into that level. And so they're working their way through the tiers there. So yeah, it has been a massive, massive success, both for the club and just the overall town of Wrexham. And they've all done a very good job. I bring this up because there is a consortium that is going after another English club, which Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is apparently part of. And what's equally interesting to me about this is that it's my local club. It's Southend United. I live in Southend in Essex. Southend United is being has been in huge financial problems for years and years at this point, probably good close to 10 years. And we've been fans have been desperately looking to sell the club to someone with money. And it won't necessarily, it's not like The Rock is going to be the one guy taking this thing over. It's just going to be a more like, business consortium. But apparently he's going to be involved in it, and he's interested with his production company and potentially making a documentary about Southend, similar to what Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds have done on Disney Plus with their Welcome to Wrexham series. So I just think it's quite interesting that I just had this because it just popped up on there. It's like, oh, like just saw a news story on Google popping up, obviously overinflating and over-exaggerated. So like Dwayne Johnson to buy Southend United FC. I'm just like, whoa.
Not what you were expecting to read that day, right?
Yeah, it's like our club is going to get bought by immediately. It's just like, oh my god, my club, not my club. I don't support them, but I mean, I was a former season ticket holder at Southend because it's a local club and it's a lot cheaper than the club I do support because they're in the Premier League, and that's like way too expensive way too rich for my blood. But yeah, the fact that like my local team could be owned by the biggest movie star in the world and a former 8-time WWE World Champion is pretty is pretty tantalizing.
You got to start getting another season pass.
I might do if we start, because they're going to be super cheap at the moment because we are in the same league that Wrexham just got out of. So it would be so we're not like super low down, but if we were to get that sort of investment and that sort of those eyes being drawn to it through the Rock's brand, then like who knows? We could be another team that skyrockets up the tables. That'd be fun.
How much are the tickets? Are they above $7?
What? Oh, well, for a season ticket, I mean that's like 40 odd games going for. I don't know off the top of my head. I haven't looked at them in a while. But when I bought them, when I was going to them, we were much higher. Southend was way higher up the leagues than where they are now. They've fallen apart since I stopped investing in them.
It's all your fault.
Yeah, it's all my fault. I think what did I say? 2023, 2024. So for a year's worth of tickets would set you back £380.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's
considering.
Yeah, it's like 16 quid per game. It's not a huge investment. It's way less than I don't know if I'll go find my actual team, Arsenal FC, the club that I've supported for a long time. Just look at their season ticket prices. This is now just like sports talk in general. If people don't really care about that side of things, which I can totally understand. Oh God, of course they make it harder to find these things. Like, can't just okay. So yeah, the highest season ticket price that you can get for Arsenal in the Premier League is £1,895.50 for a season. So yeah, that's pretty expensive comparatively.
Which of course, then the lower down you get from the professional type stuff, then it's going to be cheaper and all. But if you're just a fan of the sport, same as the way with amateur wrestling shows, sometimes it's worth it to do that.
Yeah, but just fans nowadays might if all this manages to go through, because again it's still up in the air and nothing's been signed, sealed, and delivered yet. But if that was to happen, you pay 16 quid and you get to see The Rock in the stand somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd bring that up because it was happening last week, but I forgot to mention it. So now we're talking about stuff that's more, I'd say Rock related, but Rock adjacent with this biopic. I thought, hey, let's just bring this up. It's a cool thing that's happening to my city.
So that's, there's some of the outside type stuff that are not like WWE, AEW stuff, but another thing being New Japan. Let's get into some of that with the Dominion at Osaka-jo Hall coming up. And that's, we got a series of 10 matches that are currently on Wikipedia at the very least that I have not been paying obviously much more attention to because I don't watch New Japan, but
no.
You'll get my random ass predictions. But yeah, fill us in on what's been going on here. What are the big things? What's to watch out for and all?
Okay, so those that aren't aware, Dominion is New Japan's second biggest show of the year behind Wrestle Kingdom. So this is the big summer show for them. Obviously, it might even be slightly lower down the pecking order now Forbidden Door is around, so because that gives them a lot of eyes with their connection with AEW. But there's some big things happening on this show. Not in the kickoff match, which is a Young Lion consecutive battle match. So what that means is there's this guy called, this new signing called Oscar Lube, I think his name is. And he's going to be taking on...
Lube like a...
It's spelled Leube, so it's almost...
Okay. Not as bad.
So it's taking on Rohei Owa, Boltin Oleg, and Yuto Nakashima. So they're 3 more established young lions, and so it's essentially like just a proving ground thing. So he's going to take them on probably in like a few minute long matches each, consecutively, and they're going to be probably like 3 minutes at most each match. It's just a way to test him out against some other people that he's now in the same academy or league in. So kickoff match is just something to give the new blood of New Japan a bit of a showcase.
Now, Oleg had lost at Wrestle Kingdom, right? I don't remember.
It was a draw.
Oh, the draw thing. That's right. Yeah. There's no draw option for this one, right? Because it's 3-on-1.
It's not exactly 3-on-1. It's 1-on-1, then another guy, and then another guy. So
like a gauntlet.
3. It's going to be a gauntlet, yeah. Okay. And each one's going to be a couple of minutes. So I think there's going to be a draw in all 3 matches.
Huh.
That's my prediction.
Since I have no idea what's going on, I won't even bother to go with that one.
That one doesn't matter. Well, the first match that does matter is the opener, which is Will Ospreay versus Lance Archer. This is the final of the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship number 1 contenders tournament. So the winner of this match will be the next challenger for Kenny Omega. So
that's Will Ospreay.
Well, yeah, my odds are on Will Ospreay, but it does beg the question of, there's been no announcement of when this match is taking place.
When the Omega match?
Yeah. So they haven't said specifically that this is happening at Forbidden Door or it's happening at an upcoming New Japan show or anything like that. So if it was just a random match and they're saving the Will Ospreay thing for later on, then obviously Lance Archer is an AEW talent. He could just appear on an episode of Dynamite and have a shot against Kenny Omega.
True. So yeah, they could do that like just on the way out of Forbidden Door or on the way to Forbidden Door or something.
Yeah. So I mean, my money is still on Will Ospreay just because I want to see the rematch, because their match it's still my favorite match of the year so far. Will Ospreay against Kenny Omega. So I'm desperate to see the rematch, but I wouldn't be ruling out Lance Archer at all. I think it's definitely not a landslide, but I'm leaning more towards Ospreay.
What's the situation with Konosuke Takeshita and New Japan? Does he have any kind of like working relationship with them?
He's never, as far as I'm aware, he's never wrestled in New Japan.
He's not like a guy that's popped up for like a random show here and there.
No, he was always part of what's it called? Tokyo DDT.
Okay.
So it's another like smaller promotion was his hunting ground before coming to AEW. So I mean, I can't say with absolute certainty he's never wrestled a match with New Japan, but I know that he's never been signed to them.
Because I was thinking that there was a chance we might end up seeing Takeshita beat Omega for that belt at Forbidden Door or something, which is still a possibility. But
down the line, there's definitely a chance, and it's not like they would turn their nose up to if Takeshita was to get super over and he is getting super over at the moment to win that title. But I think the next transition will probably be back to a full-time New Japan guy. Just my inclination, but I mean, who knows? We don't know if he's even going to be facing them in a singles match, or Kenny Omega's even wrestling a singles match at Forbidden Door.
True. So I'll go Ospreay for that one, though. Still.
Yeah. Next match is kind of a bit of a throwaway. It's just your straightforward 8-man tag opening. Kind of, this would traditionally be an opening match, but they're just throwing in there. So it's 4 members of Just 5 Guys. Taka Michinoku, Dookie, your favorite. Yoshinobu,
I'm a fucking
Kanemaru,
child. I get it.
and Taichi. against LIJ's members Tetsuya Naito, Shingo Takagi, Bushi, and Titan. Titan is the newest member of LIJ. One of the two newest members of LIJ, because the other one we'll talk about later on, who did pretty well in the Best of Super Juniors. He finished as a runner-up in the tournament, so they're pushing him reasonably hard in the junior division. So, and Tai Chi is the current King of Pro Wrestling title holder.
That gimmicky belt?
Yeah. So there's an opportunity here to see if someone is able to get a pin on. I think realistically, either Bushi or Dookie is getting pinned, depending on which side is going to win. I could see LIJ winning this, and then either Shingo or Tetsuya Naito challenging Tai Chi for the belt. So I'd go LIJ, but these sort of matches, it's all just a bit up in the air.
I'll go. I'm going to go just 5 guys losing that one.
Yeah. Then we have the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title match. So it's Kevin Knight and Kushida defending against Francesco Akira and TJP of United Empire. So this is a rematch from the match where Akira and TJP lost the titles to Kevin Knight and Kushida a couple of months ago. So, yeah, just coming a straight-up rematch for the titles. This is likely due to the fact that no one really cares about the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag titles. So
it does seem like one of those belts. It's just like, do you really need that?
No, not really. But I mean, if you look at the previous two, the previous match, like you could have Teton and Bushi challenge for the titles, or Tucker and Dookie, or Dookie and Kanemaru. They all fit in the junior category, so they could maybe challenge down the line. But I mean, these all competed in the Best of Super Juniors tournament. I heard really good things about Akira in general. Kushida only won one match in the entire tournament. Like, it does the round robin thing, like it does with the G1 Climax. So he only won one match and lost 8 matches, I think.
Jeez.
So, yeah, I don't know what's up with them and him. Like, a lot of people are speculating that they're just they're punishing him for leaving for WWE.
That's shitty if that's the case.
Yeah, I know. But I have really no idea who's going to win this one, because it could literally just go to anybody. There's no real stakes. Well, there's the titles on the line, but there's no real like gravity towards it needing to be on one team or the other. So I'm going to go with the champs retaining, because why not?
Yeah, it sounds about right to me. It's typically rematches. I mean, at least in other companies, typically rematches are just for the sake of doing it again.
So this one's interesting. New Japan Pro Wrestling World TV Championship match. Zack Sabre Jr. defends against Jeff Cobb. So this is interesting because they had a match a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so ago, which was the first time it went a TV championship match, because the title only was introduced at Wrestle Kingdom in January. The first match to go to a 15-minute time limit draw. So they're having a rematch of it. And so I'm quite interested to see how Cobb and Sabre approach this one. I'm hoping that Cobb just goes immediately. He knows now that he can't waste any time, so hopefully he just like charges at Sabre and just tries to get pins on him very, very quickly to have a bit more of a fast-paced match. Sabre Jr.'s actually been working a lot of Ring of Honor tapings recently.
Yeah.
In fact, he's also he's wrestling on Dynamite. Not wrestling on Dynamite, he's wrestling on Rampage.
Rampage tonight, right?
Yeah,
he's defending it against oh god, who is he defending against? Somebody.
Yeah, I need to check off the top of my head. I can't remember.
Whoever it was, he's defending that belt. So, we know that he's not losing belt on Rampage.
Nah. Speaking of which, this Rampage card, like, it's almost like they woke up and decided to say, oh, we should maybe just try and take Rampage a little bit seriously this time. Because it's there's this match he's defending. I'm still can't find who he's defending against. Wouldn't have thought it'd make it easier for me. Maybe go onto the actual AEW's website. Maybe that'll work. But you have that triple threat match for the AAA Mega Championship, and Willow Nightingale defends the Strong title for the first time, and
Action Andretti, by the way.
Oh yeah, Action Andretti. So it's a fair enough match. And then Shibata's defending the Pure Championship against Lee Moriarty. It's like, this is the most stacked Rampage card in ages. But I think even though Zack Sabre Jr. is definitely not losing to Action Andretti, I think there's a very good possibility. And my prediction is that Jeff Cobb wins the title here.
Is Cobb kind of a babyface right now? I mean, they don't really have full-on baby faces.
There's never really baby faces in New Japan. But I wouldn't say he's full-on baby face, but he's part of United Empire with Ospreay and all of that group. I'd say he probably will get the babyface reaction out of these two in the match. I think he's due a championship. I don't think he's won singles gold since joining New Japan. So I think he's due a title. I mean, this is basically why this title was also given to Zack, because Zack had never won a singles title in New Japan either. So it'd just be another opportunity for another guy to finally hold some singles gold in the promotion. So yeah, I'm firmly behind Jeff Cobb to win the title here.
The Forbidden Door stuff, I'm sure, factors into some of this, but that's also something that, the company's not going to completely change around who they want to be champion just to compensate AEW. And, I mean, it is more of an AEW show than it is a New Japan show in many ways. So if they were just like, hey, we want Jeff Cobb to be our champion, and if you want to book him on the card, we'll figure something out. And if not, then whatever. You could also just, if you want Zack Sabre Jr. against somebody, it doesn't need to be for the World Television Championship. It could just be a match. So, that doesn't change that either.
It almost benefits it, really, because obviously if it's for the TV title, it has a 15-minute time limit.
That's true.
Whereas you can get like a 30-minute match with Bryan Danielson instead.
Or you could have that anybody could win because what's the likelihood that this person's going to win that championship, Yeah. Like Zack Sabre Jr. against an Orange Cassidy or something. You put a belt on the line. That changes the dynamic of that.
So now we have the IWGP Tag Team and Strong Openweight Tag Team titles being defended in the same match. So this was originally going to be Aussie Open defending against Bishamon, Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto, and Evil and Yujiro Takahashi of the House of Torture. But United Empire got injured, so they were taken out of the match. And in their place have gone their other members of United Empire, Aaron Hanare and the Great Okan. So really, it's difficult to decide this one, because I was fully expecting that if Aussie Open were defending the titles in this match, they would just retain and move on. But now the titles are vacant and any one of these three teams could win. It's very much up in the air. I firmly do not want Takahashi and Evil to win, because the House of Torture is the worst thing in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It just they suck so much, and their matches are always just full of interference and bullshit and weapons, and I definitely don't want them to win the title. I just want the faction to break up, and hopefully this would be part of the process. Bishamon are a fantastic tag team. Like, they are the kind of the standard bearer tag team of New Japan at the moment. They were the ones that Aussie Open beat for the titles, but they've had some really good matches this year. They won the titles from FTR at Wrestle Kingdom. So I would be very happy with them. I'm fans of Aaron Hanare and the Great Okan. I think Aaron Hanare in particular has had some very good matches this year. But I would lean towards the safe pair of hands of Bishamon to be the new champions. I
have no context of it, so I'll go United Empire. Why
not? So after that, the entrance of the G1 Climax will be announced. So we'll know, a lot of things. First, we'll know what configuration the G1 Climax is taking this year, because last year they changed up the formula to have, instead of an A block and a B block with like 10 people in each of them, they decided to have 4 blocks of 7 people. So we'll see whether they decide to continue that trend, or they go back to their old approach, or if they go for a completely different evolution entirely. And also the bigger thing for that is, will there be any outside people, any outside surprises in the G1 Climax this year? Will we see any AEW guys, or see anybody from
Impact or something?
Yeah, Impact, CNLL. Like, there's a lot of potential for this. I could definitely see Lance Archer making a return back into it, but the bigger thing would be maybe a member of the Blackpool Combat Club or two, because we'll talk about that in a little while. Never Openweight Championship match. David Finlay defends against El Phantasmo. This is David Finlay's first defense, and obviously now is the big fish for Bullet Club in New Japan. El Phantasmo was a former member of Bullet Club that David Finlay kicked out. So this is just a grudge match between those two. I'd say David Finlay just wins because it's his first defense, and so I think it's unlikely they'll give it to El Phantasmo, but strange things have happened.
Yeah, I'll go Finlay.
Yeah, it should be a decent match. Another very interesting match, especially maybe with Forbidden Door implications. Never openweight 6-man tag team titles. This is the first time, well, I mean, not the first time, but this is probably the most prestige these titles have ever had because they're currently held by Tomohiro Ishii, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Kazuchika Okada.
That's a big group, yeah.
Yeah, and they're taking on Shota Umino, Claudio Castagnoli, and Jon Moxley.
Mm-hmm.
So Blackpool Combat Club, essentially, because Shota is essentially
he's like a proxy member in some ways.
So this match is going to fucking rule. I am so excited for this one. I don't know, because I think Blackpool Combat Club, we could see a lot of intersection with New Japan, because I'm one of the people of the mindset, we might talk about this when we go through like the AEW review and stuff, that I think that Blackpool Combat Club is done with the Elite.
Already?
Yeah, I don't think it may come back around in a little while, but I think for now it's going to be fully concentrated on Don Callis and whatever his group is. But again, we'll talk about that in more detail. So I could definitely envision a current future where there's a lot of interspersing between Blackpool Combat Club and New Japan Pro Wrestling in the immediate future, including at least one of them competing in the G1 Climax. I don't know whether that's Claudio or it's Moxley or it's Danielson or it's all of them. If it was all of them, that'd be great. But I don't know whether AEW would want to lose them for all of them for that period of time. But
could you see a scenario where maybe Blackpool Combat Club wins this never open weight 6-man tag team titles, and then there's a rematch at Forbidden Door, and the Elite screw them over and Chaos wins it back?
What I'm seeing is if I was a prediction, and maybe this is just because I think it would be very interesting to see, and I would be excited by it, I can see Blackpool Combat Club winning the titles here. But the match that I'm thinking is going to happen at Forbidden Door is Okada versus Moxley 1-on-1. Just because I think that they won't have, I don't think they'll defend the 6-man. I think there would be some other interspersing of talent there. I could definitely see Tanahashi versus Claudio for the Ring of Honor title as well, or Ishii versus Claudio. Again, just matches that I want to see.
Kind of split the difference a little bit.
Yeah. But I could see Blackpool Combat Club winning here, and then maybe at another New Japan show slightly further down the line, they'll drop it back to either this team or another team. But they could lose it to the Elite, maybe, and continue that story, if you are continuing that story. So, but I just think it'd be a lot of fun to have BCC win a New Japan title going into Forbidden Door. But, it could be either one. It's hard to bet against a team of Ishii, Tanahashi, and Okada as well, because that's like a dream team.
And they're truly signed to New Japan, so
yeah, true.
Better to keep things in-house sometimes.
Yeah. Still, I want Chaos. And not Chaos in
and not the team.
They're all members of Chaos. But yeah, we'll see. Then semi-main is the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship match. It's Hiromu Takahashi defending against the winner of the Best of Super Juniors, Master Wato, which I think is a dumb decision. But I would just want Takahashi to retain because I like Hiromu better, but it maybe seems like a bit of a waste of the tournament if you don't have Master Wato win. But it's unlike like things like Money in the Bank or whatever. Like they don't really care if the winner of winning the tournament is enough elevation that they don't necessarily have to win the title following up from that as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's unlikely that Hiromu retains, and if I was a betting man, I'd say he does retain.
Yeah, I'll go Wato, just be different. We don't have anything riding on this. But hey, if you won a tournament, you were taken by surprise that he won. So maybe there's a reason why.
I think there's a big possibility that he wins, but it wouldn't be the choice I would make.
I couldn't pick him out of a crowd, so I'm going into that completely blind.
Speaking of which, your IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match, Sanada, in his second title defense, defends against Yota Tsuji.
I don't even know if I've ever heard that name before.
Well, I mentioned it beforehand.
Oh.
I mentioned it on the podcast before, but it's all right. So Yota Tsuji returned from excursion. So he was wrestling in Rev Pro in the UK for about a year. When that's when the New Japan guys always go away to another promotion for a little while. One of New Japan's feeder promotions to essentially work on their character and work a more like unique style in front of a different audience. It's just a way of like helping season them a little bit. And he came back. There was these long running vignettes of like essentially he was like a wolf character. Obviously not like a wolf man.
I remember you mentioning this guy now.
But yeah, there was a lot of like vignettes with those sort of iconography attached to it. And he comes back, he attacks all members of Just Five Guys, including Sanada, after Sanada defended the title against Hiromu last month. Announced that he was the new member of LIJ. And he's coming into essentially his first big singles match back in New Japan. He's challenging Sanada for the world title.
This is the guy that you were saying before. Usually when they do this kind of a big deal for somebody, it's because they end up making him like one of the major top guys, right?
Yeah, well, clearly they have a lot of stock in him, because you wouldn't give a guy this opportunity so early in his return back that like you put him in a position where he could potentially become the world champion, especially the world champion leading into the G1 climax. And that's a big fucking deal. And so, but they did this sort of thing with Okada. I mean, Okada returned from excursion and had his first match back at Wrestle Kingdom, where I think he fought Yoshihashi when they were both quite young wrestlers at the time. And then the very next show, he defeats Tanahashi for the world title. And it's definitely not the first time that they've had someone come in first match in the company, or pretty much first match in the company, and win the world title. It's that, I wouldn't say it's a trope, but it happens with enough consistency that I wouldn't put it past them just putting title on Tsuji and just say, okay, we're just going to strap the rocket to you. And the main reason for that is also the fact that it's Sanada is the champion, and Sanada feels like a transitional champion.
Even from an outsider's perspective, Sanada feels like a transitional person to me, because I don't hear like anything about him ever.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was a secondary guy in LIJ, yeah, and now he's the head of his own faction, and they had him win the New Japan Cup, and then he beats Okada for the title, and yeah, that's a big deal, and it helps establish him as a current main event guy and a future main event guy. A lot rides on how well this show draws, because Sanada's the champion, and if the show doesn't draw as well as previous Dominions, then that paints a bit of a target on him immediately. But so I wouldn't be surprised if Tsuji wins. I think they're going to play it safe and keep it on Sanada, and just use the fact that Tsuji gets a good showing in this big match to essentially help establish him straight away, and just say, okay, this guy's someone to keep your eye on for the coming years, because we have a lot of stock in him and we've given him this big opportunity out of the gate, but he might win a secondary title in the coming months instead to make up for it. Sanada is, even though I feel he still feels quite transitional to me, he doesn't feel like strong enough as an Okada or a Bushi or Naito as champion, that they might just give him at least through the G1 climax to try and establish himself. Neither of these guys, unless they really decide they're going to strap the rocket to Tsuji, is going to be world champion come Wrestle Kingdom. So I think by that perspective, I'm just going to say Sanada retains, and then he loses to someone during the G1 climax who then beats him for the world title. Don't know who that would be. Could be Okada, could be Tanahashi, could be anybody that's more in the upper echelons of the main event scene. But I'd say Sanada retains it here. And
just to be contrarian, I'll go with Tsuji wins.
It's definitely not out of the realm of possibility, even though it is, as I say, his first big match in New Japan is this match. So I'm really excited for it, because I've seen Yota wrestle live at I went to when it was at Royal Quest when New Japan came to the UK, like back in, what was it, probably August of last year. He wrestled a match against Tomohiro Ishii in a singles match, and it was the best, well, outside of the FTR Aussie Open match, which is just like, it was ethereal to kind of watch that live in person. That was the best match of the weekend. So I really like Go Isuji. I think he's a great wrestler, and I'm excited to see what he does against Sonata. But that's Dominion.
That's Dominion.
And we'll see how that plays into Forbidden
Door. And then Forbidden Door gives us a transition to talk about arenas and how WWE has this new contract situation. So you read the report about it. I didn't read it, but the breakdown that I was assuming based off what you told me, essentially they're trying to cut into how AEW can run shows around the same markets and try to offset their marketing a little bit, right?
Yeah, so according to Dave Meltzer in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, apparently WWE has put clauses in its deals with arenas that has been used for both WWE and AEW shows, that AEW can't run a show a certain number of weeks before or after a WWE show. And it doesn't go into specifics into the specific number of weeks, but apparently the clause also says that AEW and the arena can't announce a show that they're about to have until after the WWE show has completed and taken place. So yeah, apparently they run some of the same arenas. So some of these include the Yuengling Center in Tampa, Florida, which was where the Thunderdome was. AEW is going to be in that center in August. They also apparently have run like the Heritage Bank Center in Cincinnati, Ohio, the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C., and a couple of other smaller venues. And also, AEW has talked about potentially hosting in Madison Square Garden before. So obviously that's very much a WWE stomping ground. But AEW has now kind of established Arthur Ashe as their New York stadium, so maybe that won't be as much of a conflict of interest. I'd say that, I mean, there's different perspectives you can take on this. Some would just see it as like a good capitalist play, and I don't think they'd be 100% wrong with it. I think, again, I know that I will always come across as like, I'm the pro AEW guy and the anti WWE guy, but I think even if it's the other way around, I'd have the same opinion. It just feels like shady business to me.
It seems like the type of thing that, I mean, there's nothing like illegal about it, but it does seem like it's kind of unnecessary because what you're really going to get out of it? Like, I don't think that. Well, I mean, I guess I could see their point too, because if you're running the same market, people might go, hey, the ticket price for the AEW show is less, and that's going to happen around the same time, so I'd rather go to that. And then they don't buy the ticket for the WWE show. So maybe they've done some metrics and maybe they've seen that might be cutting into their profits or something. But I think it's kind of more like, let's just make it harder for you rather than easier for us.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And anything in life, I kind of look at that as like, you shouldn't feel the need to put somebody down so that you feel like you're higher up. You should just upgrade yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we haven't seen plenty of examples in the past years since AEW was formed of WWE trying to cut into their business in some way or in some manner. But yeah, I think that, yeah, as I say, some people will look at that and just say, it's just smart business. And maybe it is smart business, but it's also a bit like you can be smart and petty at the same time.
Yeah. So let's talk about some TV stuff here, and let's get into, before we go back and talk about what already happened, let's talk about what's going to happen with our predictions tonight. Now, the big story about SmackDown is this celebration that Roman Reigns is going to have his 1,000-day undisputed WWE Universal Championship set up, and that this might have a legend showing up, which I don't know who that's going to be. I'm assuming maybe Rikishi.
Yeah, Rikishi's the one that I'd immediately think.
That way they can get into the Uso story and all, and that he being Roman is supposed to look for some kind of protection against the Usos. So I'm like, I don't know exactly how they're going to play into that. I don't think that that's where Rikishi comes in, but maybe he brings in one of the factions that are on here as like a temporary like alliance, like a I wouldn't think Pretty Deadly, but I mean, it's a possibility for something like that. Seems like it's Pretty Deadly and Austin Theory against the Brawling Brutes, but maybe Roman Reigns is like, hey, LWO, help me out here or something. I don't think so. The big speculation, though, beyond that is that he's going to be awarded a new championship, and that this might be one single unified title that has a new design and is the WWE Universal Championship going forward. And with the way that WWE's been doing titles, I'm nervous about it, because if you look at the way everything's gone down, I mean, we've had a year of Roman holds both the belts, and then we get the World Heavyweight Championship, which has the same name and a very similar look to the previous title, and they just say, nah, screw it, we're going to have a whole different lineage. So now there is 2 different WWE World Heavyweight Championships. It doesn't matter if you change it to World Heavyweight title, it's the same fucking thing. And we still haven't figured out these ugly tag team titles. They are continuously the belts that look the worst and still don't have the side plates. And why are they still unified? And why didn't we figure that out? And we still didn't figure out the Raw and SmackDown women's titles being on the opposite brands. So it doesn't give me a lot of faith that they are going to have the best setup here. And it wouldn't shock me at all if we end up with either an ugly looking belt and or that this ends up being, we're getting rid of the WWE Championship lineage and we're ending it with Roman and just continuing on with the Universal title. And I really don't want that to be the case.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see just basically what a new belt design would look like for the most part. I'm not as into the whole long-term records of this as other people are, yourself included. So I don't really have too much skin in the game on that perspective. But it would be cool to see a new belt. I'm not very keen on the current designs of the titles. So a change would be a nice freshen up. I'm more excited to see if Rikishi does show up and what he does.
And I've said it before many times, I like that WWE Championship, so if they get rid of that and they replace it with something that I don't like as much, then that'll be another downgrade too. So I'm a little nervous about what goes on with that. But let's talk about Money in the Bank, and let's go back to Monday Night Raw, talk about some qualifying matches, talk about our predictions for the SmackDown ones too. We got Rikishi. We got Ricochet. Rikishi is close enough. Ricochet beat The Miz to qualify, and Shinsuke Nakamura beat Bronson Reed. Those are the only 2 that have been qualified for either of those matches so far. They didn't announce a single women's qualifying match up until we got the one that's going to happen on Monday Night Raw or on SmackDown. That's going to be Zelina Vega against Lacey Evans. And the other one that's going to happen on SmackDown for the men's side of it, at the very least, is LA Knight against Montez Ford. Ricochet, Nakamura, Ford, LA Knight, whichever one of those 2, I'm assuming it's LA Knight, Vega and Lacey Evans. These are the only people that have been involved in this quite yet. And the graphic that popped up showed 6 silhouettes. So it seems like they're going to go with 2 less people this year in both matches, which I don't know if that's necessarily the best idea, especially when there are so many people that could get involved in this, and it could mean something to have, like, I would have liked Bronson Reed to be a part of this. Even if he loses, it still makes it seem like, he's in the running, I'm not a huge fan of 6 instead of 8, but Ricochet's great. Shinsuke Nakamura is great. I think LA Knight's going to beat Montez Ford to get in there, and I think Zelina Vega is going to beat Evans. How are you standing on all them?
I think I think Zelina Vega will probably win. I think she's just getting a nice push currently, so I think they'll just continue that trend. I would go Ford over Knight, but Knight is getting really big reactions. So I think they should give him it's hard because I think Ford would be better for the match, but Knight is seemingly the biggest star right now. And like Ford's part of a tag team, he can do tag team things at Money in the Bank instead. But the others, I mean, I'm a big fan of Nakamura, so I'm happy with him being it, but I would have been happy with Bronson Reed as well. Obviously, I'm much happier with Ricochet than The Miz. I think that all these clips about The Miz doing great against Ricochet, of course he did well. He's wrestling fucking Ricochet. So, Broom would have a great match with Ricochet. But I think that...
Not one of those brooms that falls down easily.
No. But I think that it's having 6 instead. I mean, I think that's fine. Having too many people in it makes it too much of a clusterfuck. 8 they've proven that 8 can be a good number, but I think 6 can be effective as well. I mean, they had plenty of 6-man ones at the point where they only had one world title. So I don't really mind if it's 6 or 8. The only thing I don't want to see them do is one of these stupid like losers triple threat match for somebody to get the other spot into it. I'm sick of losers getting the chance to qualify for matches in either battle royals, triple threats. Like, you take your opportunity, and if you miss your shot, you should not get another opportunity.
Or if you need to do that kind of a thing, then there needs to have been an established why are you in the qualifying match.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, these are the 8 people that are going to have 4 2-on-2 matches because they've all had this amount of setup and they all qualified to be in the qualifying matches. Then that would make sense. But since they do have the graphic with the 6, which of course they could always just change, I don't think we're going to get that. I think we're just going to end up getting next week one more men's qualifying match on Monday Night Raw, and we'll get 2 more men's qualifying matches on SmackDown, and it'll be 3-on-3, and then obviously 5 more when it comes to the women.
Yep, sounds about right.
We also had on Monday Night Raw a couple other things that really just don't matter. Like Cher beat like Javier Bernal, and I forget who else.
Big Buddy Harvey was on Raw?
Yeah, you wouldn't know it because they had him with no entrance and he just got squashed, and they referred to him as WWE Performance Center talent rather than NXT superstar Javier Bernal. Dallas in the live coverage just even bothered to refer to them as jobber number 3,985 and jobber 4,221. They had a thing earlier in the night where AJ Styles and Seth Rollins had a little handshake for their match that set up the main event of them against Judgment Day. It was just a pretty straightforward thing, but kind of makes me think that Finn Balor is probably going to challenge Seth Rollins next, which it's fine. It might not be even Finn Balor, though. I don't know.
I mean, it would work. Judgment Day seemed like they're one of the bigger acts in, like, I say bigger acts, but like they seem to be owning quite a lot of Raw at this point in time, so it wouldn't surprise me if one of them is challenging for the world title next.
According to Rhea Ripley, they run Monday Night Raw, so...
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes said, hey, let's do another match with Brock, but at some point...
Cool.
Yeah, it's... I have an open challenge for you, and we will come back around to this down the line.
This adversity must continue.
So whether he is in the Money in the Bank, and then maybe Brock screws him over, then they have a match at SummerSlam or something. That's kind of how I'm thinking might go down. I don't know. They at least put a pin in it, it seems. There's a double count out between Dolph Ziggler and JD McDonough. Imperium beat Alpha Academy, which... I forget who it was. I think it was Sami Zayn that referred to them as American Alpha at first and then caught himself. Good little promo with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Imperium. I mentioned it before about Kevin Owens being like, hey, we didn't call your names. If we don't say your names, you're not allowed to come out. That's the rule. It's an unwritten rule here. I do assume that Imperium is going to get a tag title shot pretty soon, maybe at Money in the Bank, and I'm down for that, even though they kind of already screwed this feud over by having them lose. And I would want Imperium to be the next champions, so that's not going to happen if that is the case, but yeah, not surprising.
Yeah, what a shock. Yeah,
They had a little Trish and Zoe thing, and not too much going on for that. It's just basically reiterating what it was. Stratus and Stark have numbers game over Becky. And the women's tag team titles were settled, which, surprise, surprise, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler won.
Color me shocked.
Yeah. Not at all one of those wow moments. Same when it comes to NXT. NXT had a weaponized steel cage match between Gigi Dolan and JC Jane. Dolan comes out on top of that. Not much going on with a lot of the other feuds here. Reggie explained that Scripps was his nickname growing up, and he thanked Axiom for unmasking him, and now he's opened his eyes and seen the light, and Axiom's just like, okay, whatever, dude. Wesley and Tyler Bate beat the Dyad by pinfall, and Mustafa Ali showed up as a part of this whole thing. He helped them out, and he fought a little bit with Joe Gacy, so Ali gets told to get a life, and instead he gets switched over to NXT. And I guess that's kind of their best way of doing that. But he wouldn't even be the only one that would do that, because the end of the night was Carmelo Hayes retaining the NXT Championship over Noam Dar, and then getting attacked by Baron Corbin. So free agents, Mustafa Ali and Baron Corbin, either the plan was to put them in NXT, and that's why they ended up going with the free agent thing, so that they could go like, and we'll surprise you by having them do that, and we'll use them in the meantime. Or they gave them the free agent status because they had no idea what the hell they were going to do with them, and then over the past week or so, they went, you know what, let's just put them in NXT. But I'm not opposed to it either. I think that Ali and NXT could be a bigger deal, and I think that Baron Corbin against Carmelo Hayes could be not only a solid match, but it's a good win for Hayes, because I don't think Baron Corbin's winning that belt right now. So, you know, rather than to just be losing on the main roster, if they're in NXT and they're doing something, I'm down for that. How do you feel about it?
You can't say anything negative about them trying to freshen up some people that have clearly gotten pretty stale on the main roster, and they've got nothing for. There's an opportunity for them to come down, spread a bit of knowledge and experience with younger guys coming up, especially because there must be some kind of transition in terms of working on in developmental and working on the main roster. So perhaps working with guys like Ollie and Corbin that have several years of experience in that environment can help these people out. So I'm not opposed to that. And of course, I'm not watching it, so I don't care that Baron Corbin is going to be in the main event of shows moving forward.
Who would you put as the next challenger for Tiffany Stratton? Because they are going to do a number one contenders battle royal, and whenever that's going to be her next opponent, which I would assume is not going to be the whole Blair Davenport mystery attacker reveal thing, because that was a whole separate segment. So, and not only is she also a heel, but you can pretty much rule her out. You can pretty much rule out Danny Palmer, I would assume, but everybody else up for grabs.
I realistically, I think like if you're just going from just a booking logic standpoint, it should be Gigi Dolan after winning the steel cage match.
I could see that being the case, yeah.
But like again, it's a battle royal, so it could legitimately be anyone. It could be fucking Thea Hale for all we know.
I mean, it did kind of. She was the one that sort of sparked it.
Mm.
But I don't think it's going to be her. I think it's going to be Gigi.
Yeah, I would say Gigi, or if they just want to go straight to the Roxanne Perez thing, so they can have Tiffany beat Roxanne Perez with the title on the line, and then that be the launching pad for Roxanne to go up to the main roster.
The Hank Walker and Tank Ledger stuff. You're super excited about how they fought, and now they're tighter than ever, and they even have the same answers to all the same questions. But Idris Enofe and Malik Blade are not quite in sync.
Dude, I don't even know the names that you're saying right now.
I don't blame you. And then there is, of course, the Tony D'Angelo criminal investigation thing, which was basically just Stax being like, hey, Gallus, what the hell, man? So not the best stories going on right now. Joe Coffey beat Channing Lorenzo in a match, and Oh, and Von Wagner is potentially going to see a therapist about his anger issues because Mr. Stone's going to pay for it. That's your sign up, your send up of NXT for this week. It's a show. It's a show. Dynamite's also a show.
Yeah, a really fun show this week. Actually, I thought it was one of the best shows they've done this year. Kicked off with the Lucha Bros and Bandido versus Blackpool Combat Club in a trios match. Bandido had some interesting gear, but apparently it was a tribute to a Mexican kids TV personality that passed away recently.
Oh, yeah. Of course, I didn't know that.
No, nobody knew it until it was plastered all over Twitter by people that were kind of more in the know. So. But it was cool. We had a cool minute-long suplex spot, and again, lots of violence and flipping stuff as you'd expect. And Blackpool Combat Club got the victory. Yeah, just a really solid match to open the show. You're always happy to have just good matches straight away. And Danielson on commentary was great as well. They're just and had you get the victory as well. They are pushing this guy. This guy is going to win a title soon. I think he could beat Wardlow. Because they're making
stranger things have happened.
I think they're keen on making him like the next Danielson. In that kind of, because Danielson's talking him up big on commentary all the time about how much he's improving and how much he's getting better, and he's pinned Kenny Omega, so Wardlow could definitely be next down the pecking order. But it could be another title. He could be the guy that beats Orange Cassidy, but there's another guy that's going after him first at the very least. But we had then Jay White and Juice Robinson kind of promo about FTR and Ricky Starks, and I thought this was fun. I think Jay White's a great promo, and Juice is just loud, but it's fun. And yeah, so it seems like they're setting up for a tag team title match soon. Or at least a trios match. If there's a trios match, then I don't know who the new member of Bullet Club Gold would be. No one immediately springs to mind.
Well, I don't know, because if they bring in somebody from the regular Bullet Club, why would they be a part of Bullet Club Gold and separate? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if it was at Forbidden Door, the trios match, then obviously you can just bring in someone from New Japan, like a David Finlay or someone else from Bullet Club. If they were signing someone to just come in as a new member of Bullet Club Gold, then I mean, it could realistically be anybody. Doesn't need to necessarily be someone who's been in Bullet Club before. But again, I'm kind of leaving that one a bit open-ended because I just don't know who it would be as of right now. They had this backstage segment with the Young Bucks and Page talking about apparently saying that Kenny Omega had left the country but he hasn't gone back to Canada. So presumably he's in Japan somewhere. Maybe he's going to show up at Dominion.
Maybe
what about that now?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't track New Japan all that much, but yeah, the crossover between that stuff is some of the most fun, unpredictable stuff. So,
did you hear about Matt Jackson and the Thumbtacks?
No, what happened with that? I mean, I saw what happened at the pay-per-view, but what happened?
Apparently when they were taking out the Thumbtacks, some of them broke while they were being taken out, so he's still got bits of the pins in his foot.
Fuck. See, don't do that.
I know, but these people are crazy sometimes. Then, well, I think we should talk about. So what happened afterwards is one of the big talking points because it was the latest of Tony Khan's big announcement, and he officially said the name CM Punk is going to be appearing at the first Collision show.
I've said it before. I don't think he's worth all the all the headaches, but yeah, we kind of saw this coming.
It was a very mixed reaction. So it was like an initial pop because there's like, oh my god, they've actually said his name, he's coming, and then there was very sustained boos in the crowd. I think I'm just going to echo what a lot of people said, and I think it's just the simple solution. He's going to get cheered like a god in Chicago. And then the rest of the time, he's going to get the John Cena treatment. It's going to be a mix of boos and cheers of different levels, but it's never going to be a fully babyface reaction for him again. And I think he should just lean into that I'm not for everybody gimmick.
Because it's going to take a while to build back that trust.
Yeah. But I think it'd be interesting. I think the fact that they've fully announced it as well is a good indicator of the fact that the Collision tickets weren't selling that great.
Probably, yeah, because they needed to stretch this out for 3 weeks worth of announcements. I don't think so. They very easily could have just been like, Collision's here and it's happening, whatever, and it's in Chicago and CM Punk's returning. Oh my God, don't you want to buy tickets?
Yeah, I think they're going to try and go by the whole rumor mill thing, like they did for his first return back in 2021. But yes, but now they've seen the ticket sales and thought, okay, we have to be absolutely clear that he's going to be at this show to make sure that we get a full house for the United Center. Then we had a triple threat match with Trent Beretta versus Swerve Strickland versus Big Bill. And I'm totally fine with this happening. That it's just three guys, put them in the match for each other and just see who wins. Because I don't think every match needs a story attached to it.
Yeah, not everything.
And this was fun, and Swerve got the win, and it did actually lead to him he's going to have a title match for the International Championship with Orange Cassidy on next week's show.
Which there is a very good chance that he might end up actually winning that belt. We talked about him before being a potential option to be the next champion, and then he had a really good run with that at Double or Nothing. You know, he ended up being the last person to eliminate, and he almost won it in multiple different times. So I'm once again in a position where I'm like, yeah, I could see him winning that belt.
Oh, definitely. But again, that's the beauty of where we are with Orange Cassidy now. It's that every match feels like it could be the one that he loses the title.
I didn't quite think so with Fletcher. Was his name?
Yeah, Carl Fletcher. Yeah, not so much about that one, but
yeah, but most of them have been like, yeah, he could have very easily lost it to Daniel Garcia. He could have lost it to any number of these people. So
yeah,
we're keeping an eye on that one for sure.
The Acclaim cut a promo with Renee Paquette saying that they want to give Billy Gunn one more title run. So I guess they're going after the trios titles again down the road.
Would have liked to have seen that maybe before the pay-per-view. So kind of, instead of just doing a rematch, because I don't think they're winning those belts.
No. Well, maybe next time if they do go after the title, they'll actually decide to have a rule for themselves. The sign that I heard from the Brian and Vinny show when I was listening to that, the rule they should have put together is that they should have had to, Aleister Black should have had to scissor Daddy ass before the match started. And if not, they forfeit the titles.
That's great.
Yeah. Then the best segment of the show, Don Callis came out. Against Keshta.
Huge boos.
I heard comparisons to a lot of obviously big things. Like I know Dominic Mysterio gets a lot of heat at the moment for like his reactions coming out, and then there was the whole like Roman Reigns coming out after the Undertaker match. And well, there was that crazy segment on like random episode of Raw between Elias and Kevin Owens in Seattle, where like,
the Seahawks thing, where it's just like they were not having it that night. They were booing like crazy.
But this was like they panned the shots of the crowd, and the crowd was like they were angry. They were shouting. They were I mean, some of them obviously doing the whole like on the camera having fun, but lots of them looked like they were just generally hated the guy. And he got the promo about how he lost a nephew, but he gained a son in Takeshita, and how Takeshita's better than all these Japanese legends like Inoki and said Okada and Ricky Dozan, and then he said Okada, and then the camera not so subtly pointed up to the Forbidden Door sign in the back corner, which I thought was just a nice touch. And then Takeshita cut a promo in mostly Japanese, which is great for heel heat as well.
Right, because people would just be like, fuck you, speak English.
Yeah. And then he said a few things about English. He said like they're going to destroy the Elite and destroy Kenny Omega. And then the most interesting part of the whole promo, outside of just the sheer spectacle of it, which was he said that his new Callis said that his new family is going to take the Elite out of all Elite wrestling. As he said, family. So that means more than Takeshita.
Mm-hmm. At least implies some sort of stable.
So there's a lot of things that could potentially be. I know obviously Aussie Open is signed with AEW now. So if it was some sort of alliance with United Empire, that could be part of it, especially with the whole Osprey and Omega history that has developed recently. And then there's part of me that just goes, what if the world is like about to burn and it's CM Punk is part of that family?
Hmm.
And that CM Punk is the head of this family, and they've managed to, because one of the things about all of this stuff about Omega, all the Elite and CM Punk is we don't know if they buried the hatchet or not.
Right. It could very easily just be like, you guys need to figure out a way to work together and suck it up, and that they hate each other or something.
Yeah, and the way that I've seen it described, especially by Sean Ross Sapp, I think, on a recent podcast, is that there is no benefit to either the Elite or CM Punk to letting us know that they buried the hatchet. Because it's better for the story if we think that they still hate each other and they're not talking to each other and they want to be on separate shows all the time. So I'm not to say that is the definite possibility, because there's a very, very real possibility that that is the case and they are being kept on separate shows because of that. But it would be a very good, like, working the audience to a degree if they have decided, okay, we've created this whole new show and we're putting CM Punk on it with the inevitable vision of eventually him working an angle with the Elite. So I'm just going to put a pin in that to say just that's a bit of just reckless speculation, but either way we're going to see a Takeshita versus Omega match somewhere down the line, so that'll be fun. Then we had Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin teamed up against the Gates of Agony. They've had like Allin and Cassidy team up quite a bit recently, so but they got the victory, and then they were attacked after the bell, and Sting came out to chase the like Brian Cage and Swerve Strickland away. So I think there's a possibility we're going to get Cassidy, Allin, and Sting versus the Embassy for the Ring of Honor 6-man tag titles. That'd be something.
So yeah, I mean, it's a match that you put that on the marquee and people are going to want to watch it. And whether or not it ends up being like the best match in the world, there's certain drawing power that's just always going to come with any kind of match with some of those guys. You put Sting on the card, yeah, people are going to be interested.
We had an in-ring promo with Hook, which was interrupted by Jose, Preston Vance, and Dralistico, who tried to take him out, but then Jungle Boy came out and made the save, and then like gave a fist bump to Hook. My take on this is that they're going to tag team for a little while, and they're going to lose a match for the tag titles, and then Jack Perry's going to turn on Hook and turn heel.
I kind of feel like a heel turn's coming for him too.
Yeah, because he said in like a promo all the way back that he wants to be a singles world champion by the end of 2023, and why not take the FTW title?
And he pretty much like definitively said, I don't want to team with Hook. I want to be a singles person. It was Hook that he was around with at that time.
Yeah.
So that would be even more so a reason for him to be like, I'm not getting the credit I deserve. This is bullshit. So I'm going to win a belt that revolves around, I mean, it's the fuck the world championship to be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And people are going to boo me because I beat Hook and turned heel, as opposed to that he wins like a straight up even keel contest with Orange Cassidy.
So we had the Chris Statlander had her first defense in the TBS Championship against Nyla Rose. Yeah, decent, nothing super special. It was cool that she won with a 450. That was a nice finish. But yeah, it was just a match really. What was somewhat interesting was they had a Taya Valkyrie watching on backstage, so she seemed quite pissed off. I think she's going to go heel and fight Statlander for the title soon.
Makes sense. Give her another person to, not lose her momentum and all, and give Chris Statlander somebody high up there to beat and kind of establish herself even more. Not that she needs to like beat somebody to establish herself. She beat Jade Cargill, but still she won with the kind of caveat of you won after Jade had already wrestled a match. So
yeah. And then the main event was Adam Cole and Britt Baker defeated Saraya and Chris Jericho. Yeah, again, it was another decent match. It was definitely better than the Cole and Jericho match at the pay-per-view, but, it was just some fun stuff. Britt Baker beat the shit out of Jericho in this as well, in certain times, which was just fun to watch. And, yeah, Cole definitively beats Jericho again, so I think that this program is I'd say pretty much wrapped up.
It should be, at least. I don't know where they would go from here.
Yeah. Cole moves on probably towards challenging MJF for the title, All In or All Out or something.
Mm-hmm. Maybe does something in the meantime just to kind of keep himself busy for Forbidden Door and then move on to MJF, depending on, obviously, who they plan on having MJF against, because you would think that he would defend the title, but it wouldn't shock me if MJF is not defending that belt at Forbidden Door.
Well, that's the big question, is that, so you probably didn't see it, well, I think we discussed it after we did our Double or Nothing post-show, that MJF went to the post-match scrum, and like part of the thing was asked about who does he want to fight at Forbidden Door, and he said, I'm not fucking working Forbidden Door. Mm-hmm. Like, essentially, he referred to New Japan Pro Wrestling as an indie, and said that it's not, none of those people worth his time, and none of the greatest legends that have ever worked for that promotion can lace up his boots. I mean, his gimmick, again, I don't know, you never know with MJF how much of it is gimmick and how much of this is just a real life person, but as part of his gimmick at the very least, he hates New Japan Pro Wrestling and thinks that it sucks.
Right.
So he would probably go out of his way to avoid fighting on that card, but they might do a thing of like, well, we're going to force you to fight at Forbidden Door, but say it's part of your contract to fight on every pay-per-view and defend your title at least on every pay-per-view.
And it could be the type of thing too that, not that they copy WWE all the time or anything, but WWE is setting a precedent in the world of pro wrestling right now for this idea that, hey, our top guy, Roman Reigns, does not need to defend his belt all that often. And it's been months of him not being on certain cards. And then look at the way that they did Night of Champions and Backlash and all, where they're essentially like, hey, Roman's going to defend that belt at the big four shows and that's it. And, you know, if you take one pay-per-view off and it's the Forbidden Door one, where MJF can wait a little bit, he doesn't have to defend that title, you make it a part of a story that like, oh, you know, what a jerk, he didn't even want to be there, and you've got a big enough thing that can offset that. Because it's one thing if you don't have the champion on there and you've got nothing. But if you've got all these outsiders coming in and the show is revolving around a cross promotion, then you don't really need to have MJF defend that championship, because it might as well just be him against Sonata or whoever is the New Japan champion in like an exhibition type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to have those championships defended on a cross promotion show in the same way that Survivor Series had champion versus champion and stuff. They could get away with it, I think.
Yeah, potentially.
So that was Dynamite.
Yeah.
And that was the week in wrestling. Of course, if there's anything else that you want us to talk about, drop them in the comments below. We will go back and, you know, leave some comments in response and all. And then next week, our main event is something that we actually already pre-recorded, which is the fantasy booking side of the half of the mock draft that we had done, where we got into, you know, this whole Money in the Bank season has tons of different people that have competed in the Money in the Bank ladder match before. We picked our teams, we booked our rosters. So you will find out what our pay-per-view cards are after that. I think it's Tuesday morning is when I have that set to air. In the meantime, of course, also check out that whole fantasy booking that I did for the King of the Ring tournament. And next week, we'll have another episode of the Hot Tags. And we'll also have, following that, another main event, of course, the week after, with another Money in the Bank related thing. The current game plan being fan announce table of the 2013 Money in the Bank ladder match that had the All-Stars for the WWE Championship contract. So that is tentatively in there. Maybe something changes it, but I already made the graphics and stuff for it, so we'll probably end up doing it. You know, if we end up doing something else, of course, you'll find out about that down the line too. When it comes to updates on anything regarding any of these things, you can always just go to smarkoutmoment.com and you will see more and more posts there. You will always just tweet at me or something, ask a question. I'll toss out something there. But stay tuned to not just Smark Out Moment, but also Fanboys Anonymous, as I mentioned before. Go to Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Patreon and all for Fanboys, just the same as you would for Smark Out Moment. And share your support for things like the Blueprint Project. Now, Chapter 4 of The Batman A Nighttime Story, 100 Records from the Wayne Foundation Archives is up. I want to know what you have to say about what I do with this whole Bruce Wayne in the League of Shadows story. If you are a Batman fan, I think that you'd like it quite a bit. And keep paying attention to when Chapter 5 drops, because Chapter 5 is going to be the last of these videos. I am not doing 100 of them to tell you all of the stories, because that defeats the purpose of me wanting this to be a project that actually becomes that. Even doing 5 of these stories is probably something that, I don't know, maybe that's working against me, instead of just saying like, hey, here's the general pitch or something. But, I don't plan on doing anything more beyond the 5th video for this. And I'm really hoping that I can knock it out and get it up around my birthday. Specifically, I'm trying to get this posted on June 26th. So I'm trying to cram that in over the meantime in the next few weeks. But I can't make any promises that it'll be a guarantee or not. So stay tuned for it. Check out things like Absolute Power Rangers, a Mighty Morphin Epic. Yeah, Power Rangers is another huge part of the Blueprint project. There's so many more things too. So if you like that kind of stuff, show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing, donating to the Patreon, sharing it. Sharing it's probably one of the absolute most important things, and it's completely free and it takes you 2 seconds. So if you are into that stuff, go ahead and do that. And of course, if you go to anthonymango.com or amangotree.com, you will see all the different links to everything from Smark Out Moment and Fanboys Anonymous to just my own accounts at Tony Mango. Make sure you're following Callum and Rob too. Rob is over at Dude Felice all over the place. Callum, round us out.
So you can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. You can check out the Power Rankings every single Saturday over on smarkoutmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their recent performances from 10 to 1. And then you can also follow the Fantasy League over at wwefantasyleague.com, as well as finding it through the Smart Out Moment navigation, where you can see how our teams are doing as we continue to pick up points throughout the season. Still very much in the early days, but see who's managing to pull out the lead and who's falling behind as it stands right now.
I'm still all the way at the bottom, right?
Yep.
God damn it. Well, I'm hoping that some of that things changes, but one thing that I hope doesn't change is that you guys don't stop. Don't wait. How's the word? I don't know. Continue watching. That's what I'm saying. My brain is so fried. It's ridiculous. But yeah, stay tuned to everything. Thank you for watching this episode, and we'll see you next time, everybody. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.